Imagine this. You wake up one morning, you catch your reflection in the mirror, and you place a hand on your stomach. It isn't just the surface layer of fat that you feel, it's something deeper, firmer, and harder to ignore. That's visceral fat. Unlike the soft fat that sits just under your skin, visceral fat hides inside your abdomen, wrapping around your liver, your pancreas, your intestines. It's invisible until it starts showing up in the form of a rounder waistline, tighter belts, and that stubborn belly that seems impossible to get rid of no matter how many salads you eat or walks you take after dinner. And here's the truth nobody really told you: it's not just about appearance. Visceral fat is dangerous. It's been linked to heart disease, type 2 diabetes, dementia, and even certain cancers. For people over 60, this type of fat becomes even more threatening because as muscle shrinks and metabolism slows, visceral fat often sneaks in and takes over. But here's where the story gets interesting. What if I told you that just 3 days, 72 hours of water fasting can begin to unlock something remarkable inside your body, something that goes far beyond a quick drop on the scale? You might be thinking, 3 days without food. That sounds impossible, dangerous, or even unnecessary at my age. And I get it. I'm a doctor, but I'm also human. I like to eat. I enjoy the comfort of food, and the idea of skipping even one meal used to make me anxious. But I also know that our bodies are designed for periods of fasting. Our ancestors didn't have 3 square meals a day with snacks in between. They went hours, sometimes days, without food, and their bodies adapted. What we're now discovering is that those same mechanisms, long dormant in the modern world, can be harnessed today, and they may hold the key to melting away visceral fat in ways that nothing else can. Let's imagine your body like a home with 2 types of storage. The first storage closet is easy to access. This is the sugar and glycogen in your liver and muscles. It's quick fuel, like grabbing a flashlight from the drawer. The second storage is the basement, harder to reach, but filled with fuel reserves in the form of fat. Most of the time, because we eat frequently, we never bother going into that basement. Our body runs on what's in the top drawer. But here's the fascinating thing: once you stop eating for 24 hours, those top drawers empty out. The body has no choice but to open the basement door. And when it does, the first type of fat it reaches for isn't necessarily the soft fat under your skin. It often targets the deeper, more metabolically active visceral fat. Because visceral fat is like dry kindling, it burns faster and releases energy more readily than the fat on your thighs or arms. In fact, studies have shown that during short-term fasting, insulin levels drop dramatically. For seniors, this is a big deal because insulin resistance tends to rise with age. Lower insulin means the body stops clinging to fat like a hoarder clutching old boxes in the attic. Instead, it lets go, and visceral fat becomes the fuel that powers your cells. Within those 3 days of water fasting, your insulin can drop by up to 30%, and growth hormone, a hormone that helps preserve your lean muscle and encourages fat burning, can surge up to 5 times its normal level. That's like your body flipping from storage mode to repair and burn mode. And for seniors who often fear losing muscle, this rise in growth hormone is a built-in safeguard. But this isn't just about hormones. It's about something deeper: cellular housekeeping. Think of visceral fat as not just storage, but a cluttered garage filled with old, broken machinery. Over the years, damaged proteins, dysfunctional mitochondria, and even precancerous cells accumulate. During those 3 days of fasting, your body activates a process called autophagy, which literally means self-eating. But don't worry, it's not your muscles or healthy cells being eaten. Instead, your body starts cleaning out those broken parts, recycling them, and using the energy to heal and repair. This process is like finally cleaning that garage, tossing out the junk, and freeing up space for healthier, more efficient tools. I once had a patient, a retired teacher in her late 60s, who struggled with stubborn belly fat despite walking every day and eating what she thought was a healthy diet. She was frustrated, embarrassed, and even scared because her doctor warned her about prediabetes. Together, we explored fasting in a gentle, medically supervised way. After just a 72-hour water fast, something she never thought she could do, her fasting blood sugar dropped. Her waistline slimmed by 2 inches within a few weeks, and most importantly, her energy soared. She told me it felt like her body had been reset. That's the power of what happens when the body taps into visceral fat and uses it as fuel. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Dr. Youn, I'm in my 60s or 70s. Is this safe for me? Won't I faint? Won't I get too weak? Those are valid concerns, and I'll be the first to say fasting isn't for everyone. If you're on medications for diabetes, blood pressure, or have certain medical conditions, this must be done with the guidance of your doctor. But for many healthy seniors, fasting, even for 3 days, can be remarkably safe and even invigorating. Your body is wiser than you think. It knows how to adapt. The hunger pangs that roar on day 1, they fade. The foggy head on day 2, often replaced by clarity on day 3. By the end of 72 hours, many people report an almost euphoric sense of lightness, as if their body has remembered a forgotten rhythm. The beauty of fasting is that it's free. No pills, no fancy powders, no exotic supplements. Just water. But don't underestimate it. 3 days of water fasting is not about starving yourself. It's about feasting on your own reserves, on the fat that has been quietly undermining your health for years. Imagine telling your body, instead of storing disease, let's burn it away. That's exactly what's happening when visceral fat is broken down into ketones, an alternative fuel source that not only powers your muscles, but also your brain. Seniors often fear memory loss, dementia, or cognitive decline. Well, ketones are like high-octane fuel for your brain cells, sharper and cleaner than glucose. That's why so many people report mental clarity after fasting. I want you to think about something. We live in a society where we are constantly told to add more protein shakes, add more supplements, add more meals. But sometimes the most powerful healing comes not from adding, but from subtracting. Fasting is subtraction with a purpose. It gives your body the space to heal, to burn away what doesn't belong, and to reset. And at the heart of this reset lies visceral fat, that hidden enemy we've ignored for too long. 3 days may sound like an eternity, but let me put it in perspective. 3 days is the length of a long weekend, the time between Friday night and Monday morning. In that short span, your body can initiate processes that no diet pill, no crash diet, no fad can replicate. It's not about punishment, it's about empowerment. It's about telling yourself, I'm willing to pause, to trust my body, and to let it do what it was designed to do. Now, imagine sitting at your dining table after those 3 days, breaking your fast with something simple, maybe a bowl of bone broth or a few slices of avocado. Every bite tastes richer, every flavor brighter, because your body is no longer dulled by constant feeding. In that moment, you realize something profound. Food is not the enemy. Visceral fat is, and for the first time in years, you've loosened its grip on your life. And here's the bigger picture. When you shrink visceral fat, you don't just change your body, you change your future. You lower your risk of heart attack, you reduce the strain on your liver, you calm the inflammation in your arteries, and you even slow down the processes that drive aging. At over 60, it's not about having a six-pack. It's about reclaiming health, energy, and independence. It's about being able to walk with your grandchildren, garden in the sunshine, or travel without worrying about medications and fatigue. So, my friends, what 3 days of water fasting does to visceral fat is nothing short of extraordinary. It unlocks energy, it heals, it repairs, and it empowers. It gives seniors like you a tool to fight back against the silent invader that has been creeping in for decades. Nobody may have told you this before, but now you know. And knowledge, when paired with courage, can change everything. Let's walk through those 72 hours together, because when you understand what's happening inside your body hour by hour, it feels less like deprivation and more like a journey. A story where you are the hero and visceral fat is the villain finally being defeated. The first 12 hours after your last meal are in many ways uneventful. Your body is still digesting, breaking down carbohydrates into glucose, storing what it doesn't use as glycogen in your liver and muscles. This is the easy part. You don't really feel much yet, maybe just the usual hunger that comes before bedtime or after skipping a snack. But behind the scenes, insulin is beginning to fall. This matters because insulin is the hormone that tells your body store fat. With it dropping, the gates that locked your fat away are starting to creak open. By 24 hours, you've burned through most of your glycogen. The quick access drawer is empty. Now your body peeks into the basement. At first, it does so hesitantly, like someone rummaging through a dark room, but soon it realizes there's plenty of energy waiting there. Visceral fat, because it sits close to your liver and bloodstream, is among the first to be mobilized. The triglycerides stored there are broken down into free fatty acids and glycerol, shipped off to fuel muscles, heart, and brain. If you could peek inside, you'd see your cells running on a new fuel mix, like switching from regular gas to premium. By 36 hours, ketones start rising. Ketones are molecules produced when fat is burned in the liver, and they're magical in their own right. They slip through the blood-brain barrier with ease, fueling neurons in a way that feels sharper, steadier, and cleaner than glucose. That's why so many fasters describe mental clarity, even euphoria, around this point. For seniors, this can feel like a fog lifting, a reminder that your mind is still capable of focus, sharpness, and vitality. The brain, after all, thrives on ketones. It's like trading in a flickering old light bulb for a new LED. By 48 hours, autophagy kicks in a high gear. This is the deep clean, the cellular spring cleaning I mentioned earlier. Damaged mitochondria, misfolded proteins, precancerous cells. They're tagged, dismantled, and recycled. Imagine an old, rusty engine being stripped for parts so a new, more efficient engine can be built in its place. Visceral fat cells, in particular, are often inflamed, spewing out chemical signals that damage your arteries and organs. During fasting, many of these cells shrink, and the inflammation they cause begins to subside. For someone over 60, this isn't just theory. It's protection for your heart, your memory, your joints. By the third day, 72 hours, you've reached a remarkable state. Growth hormone, which helps preserve your muscle, is elevated. Ketones are humming steadily. Insulin is at its lowest. Inflammatory markers are reduced, and visceral fat stores have been tapped aggressively, not just for energy, but also as part of the body's way of protecting itself. Think of it like an old tree shedding diseased branches so that new growth can thrive. You haven't just starved, you've healed. I want you to picture someone in their late 60s, maybe you, maybe a neighbor. For years, they've carried that hidden weight inside their abdomen. Their doctor tells them their liver enzymes are creeping up, their cholesterol is borderline, their blood pressure is high. They feel sluggish, tired, weighed down. But after a carefully planned 3-day water fast, something shifts. The belt fits looser. The morning stiffness eases. Blood sugar numbers improve. And perhaps most importantly, there's a feeling of control again, a realization that age doesn't mean helplessness. That's not just weight loss. That's empowerment. Of course, fasting isn't glamorous. It's not easy. The first day can feel like wrestling a tiger in your stomach. The second day may test your patience as your body complains and your habits scream for attention. But then on the third day, there's a calm. Hunger softens. Energy steadies. You realize that your body is wiser than your cravings. And when you emerge, you don't just feel lighter, you feel renewed. Now, let's talk about why visceral fat in particular is so stubborn and why fasting seems to target it more effectively than most diets. Visceral fat is metabolically active. Unlike the fat under your skin, it responds quickly to hormonal changes. When insulin is high, visceral fat soaks up energy like a sponge. But when insulin drops, as it does during fasting, that sponge gets wrung out. Other fat depots may resist, but visceral fat yields first. This is why studies have shown that intermittent fasting and extended fasting can shrink waistlines disproportionately compared to overall weight loss. It's as though the body knows this fat is toxic, let's burn it first. Think of visceral fat like a squatter living in your home. It's not just sitting there quietly, it's damaging the walls, leaving stains, creating chaos. Every day it pumps out inflammatory chemicals called cytokines that travel through your bloodstream, damaging blood vessels, raising blood pressure, and dulling insulin's effectiveness. When you fast, you're not just reducing storage, you're evicting that squatter. You're restoring peace to your body's home. Now, I can almost hear the question, but won't I lose muscle too? That's the fear. Especially for seniors, sarcopenia, the loss of muscle mass with age, is real, and it's one of the biggest threats to independence. But here's the good news. Short-term fasting, like 3 days, doesn't strip away muscle the way chronic calorie restriction does. In fact, the surge of growth hormone, the rise in norepinephrine, and the availability of ketones all protect muscle tissue. Your body is smart. It knows muscle is essential for survival, so it spares it. Instead, it targets the fat that compromises your organs and your future. And once the fast is over, when you reintroduce healthy foods, lean protein, vegetables, good fats, your muscles are more primed to absorb nutrients, repair, and grow stronger. It's almost as if fasting presses a reset button, making your body more efficient at using what you give it afterward. I want to tell you about another patient, a gentleman in his early 70s. He came to me frustrated because no matter how much he cut calories, the belly stayed. He felt like his body was working against him. After discussing options, he tried a 3-day water fast. The first day was tough, the second harder, but by the third he reported waking up with a strange sense of energy he hadn't felt in years. A few weeks later, his blood work came back with lower triglycerides, better blood sugar, and his blood pressure medication dosage was reduced. He said, "Doctor, I feel like I turned back the clock a decade." That's the power of unlocking visceral fat. And I want you to consider this. Fasting isn't just about those 3 days. It's about what it teaches you afterward. It teaches you that hunger comes in waves and that you don't have to respond to every single one. It teaches you that food is abundant and you have the privilege to step away from it sometimes to heal. It teaches you that your body is not fragile. It is resilient, adaptive, and stronger than you may have believed. Visceral fat thrives on constant feeding, on snacking, on sugar spikes. But when you fast, you flip the script. You starve it, weaken it, and eventually you conquer it. And for seniors, that conquest is not about vanity. It's about life. It's about years added to your span and life added to your years. 3 days, 72 hours. That's all it takes to begin reversing years, sometimes decades, of hidden damage. You won't erase visceral fat completely in one fast, but you will weaken its hold. You'll start a momentum, a chain reaction that can continue with smarter eating, more movement, and perhaps periodic fasting woven into your life. And when you do, the payoff is enormous: lower risk of heart disease, sharper memory, stronger immunity, less inflammation, and yes, a slimmer waist. But more than that, it's the confidence of knowing that even after 60, even after 70, your body can still surprise you. It can still heal. It can still fight back. So the next time you stand in front of the mirror and touch your belly, remember this: beneath your skin lies a story. A story of resilience, of hidden fat that no longer has to control you, and of a simple, ancient practice that can restore balance. 3 days of water fasting isn't just about losing weight. It's about reclaiming life. Let me walk you through exactly how to prepare, how to safely do a 3-day water fast, and how to come back afterwards so the benefits to your visceral fat and your whole body stick. And I'll do it like a friend who's also a doctor, straightforward and a little bit cheeky, because you deserve both honesty and heart. First, and I'll say this plainly because I don't want false bravado to get anyone hurt, check in with your physician. If you take insulin, sulfonylureas, or certain blood pressure medications, fasting can cause dangerous drops in blood sugar or shifts in fluids and electrolytes. People with heart failure, advanced kidney disease, active cancer treatment, or other serious conditions should not begin an extended fast without medical oversight. The guidance isn't about scaring you, it's about protecting the life and freedom you want to live. For older adults, the medical literature explicitly lists the elderly and people on certain medications as higher risk groups who require extra caution. Once you have that green light, preparation is surprisingly simple and practical. Treat the 3 days like a mini expedition. In the 48 hours before your fast, gradually reduce heavy carbs and alcohol, not because you must, but because it makes the transition gentler. Eat balanced meals with good protein, vegetables, and healthy fats: eggs, salmon, chicken, leafy greens, avocado. Hydrate beforehand. Make sure your last meal is satisfying but not excessively large. The idea is to go to bed comfortable and wake up ready. The night before, Plan low, key activities for the first 2 days. Think reading, short walks, phone calls with friends, quiet hobbies, not shoveling the garden or painting the house. Your body will be doing very important work inside, and you'll want to honor that with calm rather than chaos. This isn't a test of willpower, it's a compassionate experiment in letting your body breathe. During the fast, hydration is the priority. Water, plain and simple, is the baseline. Some people add a pinch of salt to a glass of water or sip homemade bone broth if their doctor approves. Electrolytes matter because as your body shifts fuel sources and insulin drops, sodium and potassium can fall too. If you're on medications that change fluid balance, your clinician will help you adjust. Expect hunger waves. They come like ocean swells and pass if you don't chase them with food. Sleep is a secret ally. Your body repairs more efficiently when you get good rest, gentle movement. A short walk around the block, light stretching, is often restorative, but avoid heavy resistance training on day 2 if you feel weak. Your goal is to support the internal shift from sugar burning to fat burning without creating stress that could backfire. It helps to have a little plan for what to do if something feels off. If you experience dizziness, fainting, severe lightheadedness, chest pain, or confusion, stop the fast and seek medical help. If you're diabetic and your glucose readings plunge, follow your medical team's instructions. For some people, this may mean ending the fast immediately and providing a small carbohydrate to stabilize levels. If you're well but feeling tired and a bit off, try light broth or a few sips of diluted juice to see if you recover. Many seniors tolerate a modified fast with these small supports and still get benefits. The point here is not martyrdom, it's measured progress. Now a word on expectations, because psychology matters. Don't expect to step on a scale at 72 hours and see a miraculous permanent loss of visceral fat. You will likely lose water weight and some fat, and your waistline may be measurably smaller. But the real magic is metabolic. Hormones change, inflammation falls, autophagy clears out cellular debris, and your body becomes more insulin sensitive. Those are the wins that translate into long-term reductions in visceral fat when you combine periodic fasts with sensible eating and movement. Think about it like pruning a plant. You don't yank out the whole root system in one afternoon. You trim strategically and allow healthier growth to follow. Studies show that fasting can trigger these hormonal and metabolic effects: reduced insulin, increased growth hormone, raised ketones, and enhanced cellular cleanup, all of which disproportionately affect visceral fat because it responds quickly when insulin falls and fatty acids are mobilized. Let me give you a practical hour-by-hour picture during the fast so it feels less abstract. In the first 12 hours, you mostly nap on stored glucose. By 24 hours, you're shifting from that glycogen to fat. Between 24 and 48 hours, ketones rise, and your brain often feels clearer. You're literally burning a different fuel, one that many studies show supports cognition and sustained energy. By 48 to 72 hours, autophagy and hormonal changes are well underway. Growth hormone rises. Inflammation markers drop, and visceral fat is being tapped more aggressively than many other depots. That's when people say they feel different, lighter, mentally sharper, calmer. This progression is supported across clinical and physiological studies that describe these metabolic stages during short-term fasting. After the fast, and this deserves emphasis, refeeding is part of the medicine. How you come back matters more than how you leave. The old myths of breaking a fast with the biggest, greasiest meal you can find are just that, myths. Break the fast gently with bone broth, a small serving of cooked vegetables, or a soft boiled egg if your stomach tolerates it. For many seniors, a small bowl of miso soup or diluted vegetable broth is perfect because it provides electrolytes, a little sodium, and comfort without overwhelming the gut. Progress slowly back to full meals over 24 to 48 hours. If you've fasted longer than 3 days or have signs of malnutrition, clinicians warn about refeeding syndrome, a serious shift in electrolytes that typically occurs with prolonged underfeeding, and recommend stepwise reintroduction and monitoring. For a 3-day fast in a generally healthy older adult, the risk is low but not zero, so cautious refeeding and attention to symptoms is wise. Let's talk about the emotional and relational side of fasting, because it's rarely discussed, but it's crucial. Food is memory. your niece's cupcakes, your spouse's Sunday dinner, the smell of samosas at the community fair. These are anchors of comfort, culture, and connection. Fasting temporarily separates you from those rituals, and that can be lonely. So, plan for connection that doesn't revolve around eating, a phone call with a friend, a morning garden walk with a neighbor, listening to an audiobook you've been meaning to try. Or if your family is supportive, let them know you're doing this experiment and ask for a non-food based way to celebrate the end of your fast, a small walk, a shared puzzle, or a simple cup of brothy soup together. The emotional scaffolding around fasting makes the physiological benefits easier to sustain. It turns the fast from a solitary challenge into a shared act of care. And now, the part many people actually live for: what happens in the months after you introduce periodic 3-day fasts into your life? If you repeat a safe, supervised 72-hour fast a few times a year, and pair it with an overall pattern of balanced eating, moderate activity, and enough protein to protect muscle, you'll likely see progressive reductions in waist circumference, improvements in blood sugar control, lower triglycerides, and less systemic inflammation. These are the measures that most directly relate to visceral fat and the diseases it promotes. This isn't a magic pill, but it's a powerful nudge, a metabolic reset that helps your body choose health over hidden harm. Clinical reviews and trials increasingly point to these metabolic advantages, while still stressing the need for personalization and medical guidance. Before I close with the heart of why this matters, let me share one more vignette because stories stick. There was a woman I treated, retired librarian, 70s, quick wit, terrible hip pain that made her garden less and her life smaller. She had tried diets, pills, and pills of advice. She told me she started a medically supervised short fast because she had nothing to lose but a belly and maybe some worry. After 72 hours, she reported her hip pain felt a touch less inflamed, her mood lifted, and the stares at the library felt friendlier. Her waist had decreased a bit. Her labs showed improved markers of inflammation. More than the numbers, she emailed later that month. It felt like I finally gave my body a chance to show me what it could do without me constantly feeding it. That sentence, simple and brave, is what keeps me insisting that age is not a sentence. It's a context in which careful, evidence-informed choices can still change outcomes. So what does 3 days of water fasting do to visceral fat? It exposes visceral fat to the body's repair mechanisms, lets your hormones reset, turns on cellular maintenance like autophagy, and gives your brain and metabolism a cleaner fuel to run on. For seniors, when done with appropriate medical oversight, it's a potent tool to reduce the hidden fat that undermines health and independence. It's not a single cure, it's part of a life practice that includes protein to preserve muscle movement, to keep bones and heart strong, and relationships to keep you joyful and rooted. If you're standing at the edge wondering whether to try it, think of this as less of a leap and more of a tender test. Prepare, plan, consult, hydrate, and come back slowly. Treat your body like the precious, experienced machine it is. Respect its needs, and it will often surprise you with what it can do. Nobody told you this before, that visceral fat can be weakened, that your hormones can be nudged back into balance, that a few days of intentional fasting can translate into years of better health. But now you know. And knowing, for someone who's lived 6 decades or more, is a powerful thing.